Hi, sorry for the slight delay here. Welcome to Kunsang Payo Choling, and we're really glad to have you here tonight to watch with us one of Jetsunma's teachings from back in 1992. This is from Jetsunma Ahkon Lhamo, and the title is You Need Patience and Courage on the Path. And by that she means the spiritual path. And so it will be coming up right away, and we hope you enjoy it.
In a sense, I would like to talk about having courage in one's practice, to have a kind of dauntless courage and stamina in one's practice. And I'd like to explain what that stamina and courage might be based on. And it's particularly useful for those who are starting out on the path. But it is in a way, it is no less useful for those who have been practicing for some time. And the reason why is that while we might have been practicing for some time, it seems as though we go through what you might call dry spells. I think everybody goes through that. And so there are ways to circumvent that. There are ways to get through that. Of course, one must always have patience. And patience is part of courage. Patience and courage run hand in glove, and they are, in a sense, synonymous with one another. If one has no patience, one will never have courage, because things will not come to play as we think they should. So these must by necessity be mentioned in the same breath. Yet still, there are ways that one can really practice having courage on the path. And in order to understand what courage on the path must be like, I'd like to recount to you a story of something fairly amazing that happened to me once, and that was maybe 3 years ago. Can't remember. No, maybe more than that. Well, I don't remember. 3 years ago, somewhere in that neighborhood, when His Holiness the Dalai Lama came to town, and he couldn't really go and see any of the centers the way he wanted to, because there wasn't time. So he gathered the centers together and had them meet in a speaking room in a hotel, and he spoke to all of us there. This was not his last visit, but it was before that. And at that time, a very interesting thing happened. He said, he gathered everyone together and he said, "So, how are you doing?" And then you wouldn't think that His Holiness the Dalai Lama would speak that frankly. You'd think that he would give this amazing, high-level, awesome teaching, the kind that would leave your head spinning and your eyes rolling around, doing the "Oh God" 360. But that's not what he did. He did eventually, but mostly he just sat forward and said, "So how are you doing?" And nobody knew what to say, and I was actually sitting in the front row, right in front of him, and I just looked at him kind of dumbfounded. And I remember he looked right at me and he said, "Do you think it's going well?" Well, you know, when His Holiness the Dalai Lama looks into your eyes and asks a question like that, you just kind of drool a little bit and go, and he said, "Do you?" And he went, "That's good." He said, "I guess it's going well, but do you think things are moving very quickly?" And at that time, the drool had begun to dry up a little bit, and I was gaining a little courage. And And I thought about my center, actually. I thought about how it had grown by leaps and bounds in such a short time. So I shook my head. And I went, yeah, I think things are moving pretty quickly. And he went, oh, good for you. And then he said, I don't. I went, oh. Time to faint. Magnum time. The boss disagrees. So I just looked at him and he said, I don't, because I know that it takes sentient beings a very, very long time to change. No matter how hard we work, it takes a long time to change. And he said, cyclic existence has been going on for such a long time, since time out of mind, inconceivable time, since the first inception of the idea of self-nature, since the first time that happened, and all of the artificial constructions and thoughts and discriminations and superstructures of exaggeration and continuation began. I don't think he put them in quite those words, but that's sort of paraphrasing what he was saying. It's been such a long time. And then he said, and it looks to me like it's going to go on for some time now. And he said sometimes that's hard to deal with. It's really hard to deal with. It can be very painful. He said that we all have the idea that maybe we would like to meditate very quickly. You know, we would like to hole up in a cave and have some instant result. Or maybe we would like to simply practice a lot in our everyday life, and we have the idea that we're going to have some instant result. We hold that idea as very dear to us. It's a kind of a fantasy that we hold on to. And he described how students have that idea of this intention to sit down and maybe do some meditation or do some mantra, and suddenly some miraculous change will occur. And he described that, in fact, that rarely ever happens. And particularly in this time, this age of Kali Yuga, that rarely ever happens. I got to thinking about that, and I've actually talked to my teachers about that and really meditated on that a great deal. I mean, you know, when His Holiness the Dalai Lama looks in your eyes and gives you this teaching, you know it's meant for you. And I realized that for myself, patience is really not my strong point in one way. And in another way, that's not true. I feel like, for me, I'm like a horse pulling, always pulling, you know, really pulling hard, straining to pull hard. It seems like I'm always in that posture. Yet if someone were to ask me, are things on a large scale, generally, is the suffering of sentient beings going to change rapidly? Is it really going to go away? I would have to say no. I'm aware that it's not going to do that. So in that sense, I'm patient. And I know for myself, having taken the Bodhisattva vow, I will return again and again and again. I see no end in sight. I see no finish to that. If I were to hold to a finish to that, if I were to see in my mind a grand finale, you know, like the day when everybody ascends into the spheres and the Hallelujah Chorus plays, although I know that's a different religion, but maybe we could borrow it from them or something. It's just so darn fitting. You know, when the Hallelujah Chorus plays and then everything's finished and a voice comes from the heaven and says, "It is finished." If I looked toward a day like that and really waited for it, really like sat in the parking lot with my suitcase, you know, waiting for this great appearance, I think I'd have a little trouble. I think I'd get really tired. I think that the sense of fatigue would be overwhelming. So I don't think like that at all. I think that my job is not to see an ending in the sense that that isn't the goal. The goal is not to see an accomplishment so that I can stick a feather in my hair or in my cap and say, this is the ending has been accomplished. I set my goal a little bit differently, and so the goal is more fitting for the posture that I have to take, and the posture that I have to take is to work as hard as I can. The goal that I have set is to be of benefit to sentient beings. That means to just continue to provide a means by which the suffering of sentient beings will actually come to an end. So my job is not to see the end, but to provide a means to the end. That means to the end idea is extremely important. So that's my job. In a sense, my job is not to see something fantastic, but my job is to love. You see what I'm saying? You see the kind of different posture there? So it gives one patience, one just, I'm fulfilling, in a sense, I'm accomplishing my goal now. If I'm able to bring students to the Dharma, if I'm able to show them stupas, I'm able to help provide a mandala by which compassionate activity is practiced and that students can participate in a sense, I am accomplishing my goal now. So there's a satisfaction that comes from that, and a patience and a realism that comes from that. I am accomplishing my goal, and I'm doing the best that I can. And there's a stability of mind inherent in that kind of posture that is not inherent in the posture that one has if one is simply waiting for the great sound of the end, jubilation or something like that. One can remain in love. One can remain patient and stable in love, in the act of loving. And that, of course, is the idea of a bodhisattva. That's the milk, the nectar of a bodhisattva. That's what the bodhisattva actually offers. How does that affect one's practice? How does one have courage in one's practice? We have many mistaken ideas about practice. These mistaken ideas about practice come about partially due to our expectations, our understanding of finite reality, the culture in which we live. In this culture, we thrive on 30-minute sitcoms, We think that life is divided into 30-minute chunks, and so there are resolutions every 30 minutes, at least. You may think that that's silly, but if you watch TV the way other people do, it really seems as though all aspects of life, at the very longest, will come to some resolution in a season. Even with the cliffhanger, many things have come to resolution within a season, and usually they come to resolution within 30 minutes. And we have this idea that life should be like that it should be a picture book cameo kind of thing, a bite of time should be a complete thing all by itself. We really do have this idea. And so we are misled, and we mislead ourselves constantly. And therefore, we don't have so much courage. Even within the ordinary aspects of our lives, there are many challenges that we have that we become discouraged about. For instance, if we need some sort of, let's say, psychological help, let's say people who have psychological problems may go to a psychologist or a social worker, or go to a self-help group or something like that for a certain period of time, maybe 3 months or maybe a year, or maybe even longer than that, maybe 2 years. And they might say, well, gee, I've been doing this for 2 years, why isn't there any help? Well, of course, it took you maybe 25 years to get as crazy as you've gotten. It may take you a little longer than 2 years to untangle the mess. And you have to really look at it that way. Of course, I'm being a little harsh using the word crazy. Let's use the word neurotic. It's more fashionable. Confused. But it takes us a while to get in the condition that we're in, and so it may take us a little while to untangle said condition. Likewise with our financial situation. Same thing with our financial situation. One morning we make a commitment that we are going to start putting money in the bank and socking it away, and we are going to pay our bills on time, and we're going to do everything just right, get ourselves out of a jam or whatever it happens to be, not let the money burn a hole in our pockets. We're going to change our ways. And after 2 weeks of this drudgery, of not being able to buy anything at all, and just barely getting by on beans and taters, whatever it is, and trying to pay off your credit cards, you get your next monthly bill from the credit card, or even if you've done it for 6 months and you realize you haven't even touched the principal. You haven't even touched the principal. You are still paying on the interest. And you're paying $300 a month on interest and maybe 75 cents on principal because your card has been charged up for a very, very long time. And so you kind of get discouraged. You think there should have been some resolution after paying for months on this. This $300 a month is a lot to pay, But you don't think that really it's taken you years to get yourself in such a jam. And that it's going to take a long time and a lot of really it took you tremendous concentrated effort to get in the jam that you did. You worked very, very hard at it. All your attention went on displaying your effort to get into this jam. And now all of your effort has to be displayed in this all of your attention has to be displayed in this effort to get out of the jam, and perhaps for as long a time, if not longer, than it took you to get into it. So life really isn't resolved in 30-minute sitcoms, or it isn't resolved seasonally or hourly or any of those things. How much more so is it the case with one's practice and with cyclic existence? We have this idea that there's going to be some instant turnaround, that we're going to have some sort of instant result from our practice. And I see this uncountable times in new people that come to the center. They'll come to the center and they'll have an experience by walking through the door. Well, sure, you're going to have an experience by walking through the door because your karma is ripening. Something is happening to you. You're being drawn into something that's very powerful. So of course you're going to have an experience of recognition or a sense that something's about to change. Of course you're going to have that. Naturally you will. And you can hear that bell tolling somewhere in the distance. You know that something's happening. And then sometimes when you first meet your teacher and you have an experience of meeting your teacher, you have a really powerful sense of knowing that teacher. And it must be so. You must know that teacher. If you have a sense of knowing that teacher, a sense of connection, or a sense of your bell tolling, it's because you do. You have to have karma with that teacher to be able to approach hearing teachings from that teacher. It has to be there. And you have to have accumulated the meritorious karma for uncountable lifetimes, many lifetimes, in order to be able to come to a temple such as this and to be able to hear the teachings that will, when practiced, lead to realization, lead to enlightenment, lead to the end of suffering. That's a very powerful moment. And you must have worked very hard for that to happen. You must have accumulated a great deal for that to happen. So of course you're going to feel a little something somewhere. And maybe the first time you receive your first mantra or your first practice. And of course, every time you receive a practice, if you receive it in the proper way, the teacher gives you perhaps empowerment or wang, and then commentary teaching and lung or wind transmission, or maybe two of those or one of those, or whatever it is, you have some teaching. And the teaching, of course, will tell you that if you practice this mantra, if you practice this method, and if you practice it very well, you'll have really good results, really good results. And with each mantra that you receive, the teacher will tell you this mantra is unsurpassed, which is great the first time you hear it, but then when you start hearing about every mantra that you've ever received, begin to wonder, mathematically, how can they all be unsurpassed? You just wonder about that. And then you keep hearing all these teachings that if you repeat this mantra again and again with faith, you will be moved to realization. You will not take a lower birth. Or the hatred will be abolished from your mind, or ignorance will disappear. And you hear that about every mantra, pretty much, that you receive. And you recite the mantra for some time. You say, well, you're really beating the band. You're really beating the band, and you still have ignorance, and you still have hatred. And so far, no hallelujah chorus. And so far, you haven't seen the face of Amitabha. Nothing really that amazing has happened. And you just kind of wonder. And then you hear that about another mantra, and so you kind of got married to your mantra when you heard it. You wonder, your first mantra, you thought, well, gee, I've been practicing my mantra for some time, and now I heard that, but you could practice this other mantra and you can get another result, and you kind of think that maybe you should practice the other mantra too, and it kind of goes like that. Well, the truth of the matter is that there are many different practices in this path. There are uncountable different mantras and visualizations and deities or meditational yidams, meditational deities that one can practice. There are many different forms of meditation. There is pure sitting meditation. There is contemplative meditation. There is visualization meditation. There are so many different kinds of practices. There are practices that require movement. There are practices that require stillness. There are uncountable practices. And each one of them has within them the seed or the potential of accomplishing realization. Simply preliminary practice, when done well and sincerely and done extensively, can accomplish realization. Only preliminary practice. There are actually a number of great lamas who left extraordinary signs, who really only practice their mundro, or preliminary practice, again and again. And there are many practitioners who said only Om Mani Padme Hum, again and again and again with faith, and at the time of their death achieved the rainbow body, an indication that they were actually reborn in the Pure Land, that they had moved their consciousness from ignorance to bliss. So, any of these practices that you hear this information about are the method. They are the teachings from the mind of enlightenment, and they can lead to the auspicious result. But the mistake that a Dharma practitioner will make in the beginning and even after one has been practicing for some time is to think that there's going to be some kind of amazing sign immediately. That there's going to be some outrageous spiritual event immediately that's going to happen. And this can take place in many different ways. The student will either wait for a sign, and upon not receiving a sign will become disappointed. A sign being a certain feeling, of excitement or bliss or a certainty that one has accomplished something vast. Or maybe a vision. A lot of people are hooked on the idea of visions, or maybe a psychic phenomena of some kind. A lot of people are really into the validity of psychic phenomena. Or maybe the ability to see clairvoyantly or hear clairaudiently. Or perhaps some curing of illness, or some meaningful change in one's life. One will wait for such a sign. And if such a sign does not appear in the way that one thought it should, that's the key. In the way that one thought it should, then one will become disappointed. And that's true of all of us. We will become disappointed. And we'll lose courage and we'll lose faith. But the other way in which that losing of courage actually happens is actually almost more insidious. It's almost demonic in a sense. It's really insidious and very, very difficult to handle. And that is that you must remember that we are all sentient beings. And we have a very strong habit nature. Can you open those curtains so that the air conditioner doesn't get ruined? We have a very strong habitual nature. And that habitual nature will cause us to repeat our thinking and our patterns and our habits again and again and again. Our habitual nature as ordinary sentient beings causes us to perceive phenomena in a certain way. And we perceive phenomena in the way of having all of our perception coming from the belief in self-nature as being inherently real. having assumed the identity of self-nature and having formed certain ideas about self-nature, all phenomena that we perceived is perceived in relation to the idea of self-nature. And I've explained this before. For instance, this glass of water to an ant or a bug may seem like a sea, a very dangerous sea in which one can drown. You know, if you were an ant or a bug, this would be an enormous body of water, really, and an insurmountable obstacle if one were to fall into it. To me, it's just barely enough to quench my thirst. To a fish, if the lemon weren't in it, it might seem like an environment, like nothing, like something you move through, just the same. But to me, it's very wet. To a desert creature, it would seem shocking. To a creature that's warm-blooded, this water's cool. To a creature that's cold-blooded, this water may not have feeling like that at all. So all perception that takes place is according to the perception of self-nature. And that's our habitual tendency. Now, in terms of our practice, we have constant habitual tendency going on in terms of our perception. And we perceive according to our habit patterns and according to our personality type, according to sort of the scenario of our habit patterns. Some of us are extremely volatile people. Some of us are excitable and maybe a little on the hyperactive side, or maybe very passionate, or maybe very smart, active thinkers, people that are sparking and bubbling all the time. And others of us have very calm minds, very slow, and we think maybe very pedantically, one foot in front of the other. And we reason things out very slowly, and everything is judged very carefully, and the mind works much more slowly. And opinions are gathered, or perceptions are gathered quite a bit more before one forms a conclusion. There's a different habit pattern there entirely. One person might be very emotional, and another person might be very clinical. One person might be very reactive, immediately react, and another person might be very slow to react, hold back. One person might habitually react with the idea that all phenomena and all information absolutely indicates something about self. Now, we all react to that in one way or another, but some people are very, very self-absorbed. Everything is about you, you know. Everything, it seems as though the whole universe revolves very tightly around oneself. One cannot even hear a sound without drawing a conclusion about oneself from it, how one feels, how one thinks, and reacting very strongly. Whereas other people have more spaciousness in their mind, and they might be able to hear or see some bit of information or some sound or some event and consider the event in a more relaxed way rather than fall into a more deeply reactive mode more instantly. So each of us have different habit patterns. Within the context of our practice, that will also take place. We'll have different habitual ways of reacting to our practice. A large, actually extremely large, uncomfortably large, unfortunately large percentage of people that begin to practice will contrive, according to their habit patterns, an experience about their practice when they first begin to accomplish it. They'll have an experience. And that experience, to them, will seem like the real thing. You know, they'll have either a feeling of instant bliss, instant bliss, or maybe they'll have a feeling of instant accomplishment, or instant recognition of a past life experience. in which they were Nefertiti or somebody. I've told you again and again and again, and I want you to remember this. You were not Nefertiti. I've been told Nefertiti that I was Nefertiti 4 times. Nefertiti. Can you believe it? I know for a fact that Nefertiti is now incarnated as Estee Lauder. I know this. So don't argue with me about this. So there. But anyway, some people will think that they have an instant past life experience, or some people will think that they suddenly can hear the celestial music, you know, the music of the spheres, or suddenly it comes to them. What? We don't know. Don't ask either, because it's going to be la la land. But suddenly it comes to them, and they have an experience. And then some people have a different kind of experience, of suddenly they feel that all anger is gone from them, or suddenly they feel that all hatred is gone from them, or suddenly they feel that all greed is gone from them, suddenly they feel that they are holy. Or suddenly they feel that in some way heaven opens up and they have been accepted finally. Or something like that. You know, some experience will happen to us. It is that moment when that experience happens that you have planted the seed for losing courage and shutting down and becoming hard and cynical in your practice later on. Do you know why that is? It's because, according to the Buddha's teaching, everything that we perceive, everything, whether it be this glass of water, or this plant, or a loved one, or a hated one, or whether it be, chocolate or shit, or whether it be nausea or bliss, or whether it be coming or going, or hot or cold, or up or down, or in or out, or life or death, or sick or well, or old or young, or any of those experiences, happy, sad, goodbye, hello, any of those experiences, anything that we perceive at all, these are all phenomena. And all phenomena is samsaric, and all phenomena is based on the erroneous idea or supposition of self-nature as being inherently real. That idea of self-nature as being inherently real precludes our awareness of the true nature, the pure luminosity that is our Buddha nature, that we all share equally. No matter who we are, no matter what religion we are, no matter what race we are, no matter what creed we hold, no matter what philosophy we have, whether we are bugs or humans or hungry ghosts or whatever it is that we happen to be, all phenomena has within it the Buddha nature. It is in its nature the primordial wisdom state, and all sentient beings have within them the Buddha seed that will eventually ripen into the full awakening to the Buddha nature. That is what we are. That is our nature. The idea that we are this self, this ego, with all the clinging that we do to that ego, according to the Buddha's teaching, is erroneous. That is a misunderstanding of our nature. It is a misunderstanding of what we are. But all perceptions that we have, any idea, any kind of perception, any experience, including the experience of our lives and the continuum that we move through in our lives right now, these are kind of dreamlike, almost drug-like experiences that we are having of continuum. And that continuum is one thing and one thing only. It is a habit that we have gained from believing in self-nature all this time, since time out of mind, and drawing conclusions about self-nature and creating superstructures out of those conclusions and exaggerations about those conclusions. That is the continuum that we experience. And this experience that we have within our practice is part of that continuum. The continuum of self. Only self can have such an experience, and self is not our nature. Our nature is pure, uncontrived, innate wakefulness. sheer luminosity, without distinction, simply suchness. The only one who can be having that experience that you've just had in your practice, in your meditation, is you. And according to the Buddha, we're given this practice, we're supposed to search for I, search for you. Where are you? Where is the you that's having this experience? Well, if you were to put yourself, you ever go to a deli where they slice things, You could put yourself in one of those slicers and just keep slicing. No matter how fine you got the slicing down, even if you examined cell by cell, you would never find I. Is it in your brain? Where? Is it in your mind? Where's mind? Is it in your heart? Is it in your eyeballs? Is it in your fingers? In America, we think it's in our gonads. Where is I? Where is it? We don't know where it is. We can't find it, and we'll never be able to find it because self-nature, that idea, is an assumption. Made by who? I don't know. That's what makes it a false assumption. If we understood the nature and could awaken to the nature, we would see that there's no one there to make it. Likewise, there's no one there to have that experience. The Buddha doesn't walk around saying, hey, I'm clairvoyant. Hey, am I clairvoyant or what? The Buddha doesn't walk around saying, hey, I'm clairaudient. The Buddha, Guru Rinpoche, any of those guys that made it, do not walk around saying, I am a great being. I am an ascended master. I am hot. You can't believe how hot I am. When the Buddha was asked what he was, he said, he was asked, are you a king? Are you a prince? Are you a holy man? Are you a saint? Are you a god? What are you? And he just opened one eye and said, I am awake. Abiding in that state of innate wakefulness, which is the nature. That is the nature. Free of contrivance, not a consciousness that specifically sees, you see. Simply awake. When we have these experiences, however, in our meditation, we are actually deepening our neuroses. And in Buddhism, neuroses is not defined in the same way that we define it when we go to see a shrink. Neuroses is defined as an attitude or activity that is inappropriate. Inappropriate to what? Inappropriate to our nature. We are constantly revolving in neuroses because we are not acting in accordance with our Buddha nature. We are acting like a self and responding like a self. Therefore, everything that we experience is neuroses. But we are not acting according to our nature. So when we have this experience that we've just had, whether it be bliss or past lives, or whether we in fact decide that not only are we Nefertiti but also Estee Lauder, whatever it is that we decide, we actually are deepening our neuroses and our habit pattern of absorption in self. Plus the fact that due to the reality that we haven't really abandoned the false idea of self-nature, and we are still revolving in cyclic existence, and we are still maintaining the continuum, which is the habit of self-assumption and all of its elaborations and exaggerations. So, since we are still continuing all of that, then what's happening to us basically is that nothing has really changed so much. You see? So we've had this experience of bliss. You all ever had an experience of bliss? How long does this experience of blissiness last you? Very short. So short. It's pathetic. It's almost better if you didn't have it. Very, very short. Especially because once it's finished, you kind of look back at it and go, did I make that up? What was that? And then you become a little hard because you really want to believe in it, and you kind of hold on to it, And you sort of stick there where you just hold on and you get real tight and contrived. Or if you have an experience of I don't know, hearing the music of the spheres, or you have a vision or something like that, whatever it happens to be, you hold on to it, you hold on to it, you hold on to it. It doesn't last. And you go back to being yourself. Maybe in your practice you suddenly feel very upright and holy. Across the board, I will tell you that when it first happens, that you receive one of these little gizmos, and you have a mala of your very own, and you learned how to sit properly with your spine erect, and you're meditating, you kind of look at yourself and go, hey, I'm meditating. Kind of sit there and you're very holy, And then you start doing things like putting candles on your altar, and God, it just looks so darn holy, And you learn how to put offering bowls up there, and pretty soon you start walking the walk and dancing the dance. Everybody does that. You fall into this thing that we do, and you feel that you've really changed. You feel that you've really changed. And there, right there, you have laid the seed. You have laid the foundation for disappointment, and you have laid the foundation for losing courage. Because it's like His Holiness the Dalai Lama said, things don't change that fast. You found your practice. You have the method. That's the only thing that has happened there. Right there, that's the only thing that's happened. Now you have a mala. Now you have your mantra. Now you've learned to sit up straight. Now you've learned to put a candle on your altar. Now you have an altar. Those are the things that have happened. Those are the things that have happened. There are no other conclusions to draw. Keep the mind spacious. Let the mind relax. Rely on patience. And practice. The goal here becomes to have the practice, and the satisfaction is in that you have accomplished the merit sufficient to come to that point where you can have your practice. We are taught repeatedly, again and again and again, pay no attention to your experiences in your practice. So hard to do. Because your mind, our minds, are like junkies. We're addicted to experience. We are so addicted to experience that when there isn't any, we simply make them up. And we make them up to be so real that they're like delicious, yum, 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 really scrumptious. We're really good at this. We're so good at this because we've been doing this since time out of mind. And we puff ourselves up and we become all filled up with our psychic prowess and our spiritual attainment. And we just get all about it. And then pretty soon we find out that we still have PMS, and we still get depressed, and we still have problems, and we still get lusty, and we still crave, and we still have a lot of ignorance, and a lot of delusion, and a lot of anger, and a lot of hatred. And there are days when we just feel like mouse turds. Packaged mouse turds. I mean, that's what we feel like for days. And we just, at that point, feel like, oh, what's going on here? Nothing's changing. This is awful. I mean, we have bad years, Really, don't you have bad years? Sure you do. You have days when you feel like, wow, I'm really spiritual now. Everything's changed now. Everything's changed now. I know people very well who do that. Everything's changed now. It's all finished. Everything's fine. And then the next day it's like, everything hurts. Everything that you have hurts. Everything in your mind hurts. And it's during that, when you allow yourself to become attached to either and both experiences, that you lose courage, you lose faith, and you run dry. We are taught that if we have a highfalutin, wonderful, colorful, delightful, powerful, meaningful experience, or one in which suddenly we are very powerful, or an experience in which suddenly we have attained, or an experience in which we have seen something or heard something or smelled something or whatever it happens to be. We are not to become attached to that. We are to say thank you very much and look away from it. Nothing. Do not stop at the circus. It is a circus. That's all it is. Everything that you just experienced about joy, bliss, power, whatever it was, is sugar cane. It's nothing. You put it in your mouth, it's not there. It's simply phenomena. You cannot think that you are going to attain a realization by dispelling the attachment to phenomena and the addiction to samsaric reality about some things, but the other things you get to cling to. It isn't like that. In plain English, again, I was raised in Brooklyn here, it's either pee or get off the pot. You either become detached from phenomena or you don't. The Buddha teaches us that all phenomena is based on the false assumption of self-nature. We are not taught that some phenomena is based on, that you can pick and choose your phenomena, you see. That some phenomena is based on self-nature. So, likewise, even in our lives, we become disappointed with our lives because we go through these periods in which we're very happy. We have very good relationships, or we have very good money situations, and suddenly we think our problems are over. And then everything falls. Because everything in samsara is impermanent, right? Relationships end, good days end, good cars break down, financial situations come to an end, everything ends. Fortunately, so do the bad things. Everything ends, and at that point, we become disillusioned. Suddenly, we're disillusioned. We were not disillusioned when everything was going well, but suddenly when everything going well ends, then we're disillusioned. But that doesn't make sense. Because everything that's good is going to come to an end, and everything that's bad is going to come to an end, and everything in samsara is samsaric. Meaning filled with delusion. Meaning based on false assumption. And it's like that in our practice as well. So the steadfastness and the faith and the confidence that we have in our practice should not be based on our experience, ever. Because there will be times when you will have experiences like popcorn, boom, 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 boom. And there are other times when you will just have nothing, dry, for a long period of time. And it's at the dry periods, after having something nice and juicy, that you give up. Don't give up. You can't give up. Because nothing different was happening when you thought you were cooking than is happening when you feel you're dry. The same thing is happening. You still have the Buddha seed inherent within your mind. You are still traveling on the path. You are still accomplishing Dharma. You have found your practice and you are maintaining your practice. Slowly, slowly, things begin to change. The other delusion that happens that's really a holdback is that people cannot see that they are in fact changing. They rely on those giddy experiences, those really ephemeral, giddy experiences, especially psychic phenomena. People just love psychic phenomena. Let me tell you something. Psychic phenomena is useless. It is useless. It is useless to think you know anything about your past lives. Because all you have to do is to look in the mirror and see what your character is now. Are you filled with hatred? How do you treat the people around you? Are you really loving? Have you been loving? What is your habit? What is the habit of your mind? By looking in the mirror, you'll know what your past lives were. It's just that simple. The rest of it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter a hoot whether you were Nefertiti in your past life. It only matters what you are now. This is the point of power, right now. This is where you can make a change. You cannot change the past. This is where your mind, your true nature, enters into this dream. This is where the appearance of Dharma is right now, in this time and space grid. To sit around and play with these ideas of psychic phenomena and blah, 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 la la land stuff is crazy. not when you can really make a change now. What's the point? But you can. The point of power is now. You can make a change now. You can practice. And that's your strength. That's what you rely on. What you were in the past, what you think, what you experience, what you feel, none of these things matter. What matters is that the point of power is now. That Dharma is in your hands like a precious jewel, like you've been sifting through garbage unconsciously for a long time and suddenly come up with this precious jewel. How often does that happen? And now you have it. And this is a wish-fulfilling jewel, meaning that should you rely on the purity and preciousness of this jewel and really begin to practice and really set out and really be firm and strong, you can make a change, you can make a difference. That's your strength, not the experiences that you have or don't have, because that was happening when you were high on the drug of experiences, and that's happening when you don't feel anything at all. You still have the power. And that's what you have to remember. And that's what provides the courage for us, you see? To rely on psychic phenomena, to rely on crazy experiences, or to rely on the information that your neuroses is giving you when it tells you that you are not doing anything in your practice. All of that is stupid. That's just the fabrication of your mind. Either your mind has the habit of creating these la-la land experiences, or your mind has the habit of telling you that you're no good. Both are the habit of your mind. And you dispel the habits of your mind by changing now, in the present, with your practice. By building the habit of practicing Dharma instead. Of generating yourself as a pure deity, reciting pure mantra. That's a new habit. So slowly, slowly, your habits will change. And you won't be disappointed. You won't be disillusioned. And you won't feel the grief that you feel of loss. The grief that we all feel in samsara, the disappointment. And we'll have the courage. So the point is not to go either way. It's like His Holiness the Dalai Lama said, it takes time. If you think about how long it took us to get into this present moment, how many lifetimes of habitual tendency, you should think that it's going to take a very long time. And you have to be patient. The thing that you don't notice, that as a teacher standing outside of you, that I do notice, is that there is change, but that it happens very gradually. Very gradually. I have students come to me telling me they've had all these amazing experiences and then telling me they're totally dry and nothing's happening. I've had that side. But I've also had the other side where a student will be a very slow and pedantic sort of person and not be a very, dramatic kind of person. And they don't really have much of an experience, but they keep on and they persevere in their practice. They'll come to me and they'll say, gee, I don't know. I'm keeping on with my practice, but nothing much ever happens to me. I hear all these stories about other people who are having all these experiences, and nothing much ever happens to me. I just wonder about, maybe I'm not suited for Dharma. No, that's the one that is most suited for Dharma, actually. Most suited for Dharma. Because they have had the good character to persevere, even when they didn't have an experience. And I can see clearly that such a student as that has changed over time. We have the bad habit of looking for spectacular instant results. Like what? Ascending into the clouds, hearing the Hallelujah chorus, looking different what? Who's going to go into the clouds? Who's going to hear the Hallelujah chorus? This is all about ego, and that's not the point. That's not the point of one's practice. The point of one's practice is to awaken to the primordial wisdom nature, and to accomplish that solely in order to accomplish two purposes: one's own salvation and the salvation of all sentient beings equally and in a non-dual way. That's the point, not to have an experience. So, All you really need to do is keep going with courage and with faith. The method works. And if you have the good karma to hear the method and receive the method, you will have results. According to your habitual tendency, according to your karma, according to your pattern, you will have results. You can have confidence. You're free to do that. But don't rely on the goofy information that you get from La La Land. I don't think much about that at all. Neither the information that you give yourself when you say that you're useless and no good and not attaining, or the information you get about yourself when you think you are, and you're having all these marvelous experiences. Neither one is very useful to you. So it's best to discard them both and simply continue with patience, knowing with confidence that according to the words of your teachers and those who have gone before you, you are accomplishing Dharma. You have heard the teaching and you are accomplishing Dharma. That's useful for those of you who are starting out and may be caught midstream in the middle of having one of those very vast experiences that we're talking about, or those of you that are waiting for the next one. So I really hope that each one of you will take all of that to heart and that it will be in some way useful to you. The method works. You work. There's nothing about you that's flawed or faulted. In your nature, you are the Buddha. That is without doubt. The Buddha himself taught that. No one can take that away from you. You had a bad childhood. Did you have a bad childhood? Oh, poor baby. Did you have a difficult time growing up? Poor thing. Me too. But you know what? No matter what happens, no one can take that away from you. Even Guru Rinpoche himself, even the Buddha himself, were he so inclined, which he is not, would not have the power to take your Buddha nature away from you. Nothing can do that. That is certain. On that you can rely and have confidence. That you have the means to accomplish. You're sitting here listening. You have the means to accomplish. On that you can rely. So there's your confidence. Confidence should be in the method. Don't believe anything else.
So thank you very much for joining us here at KPC for one of Jetsunma's teachings. We offer these to you on Wednesday evenings, as you know now, at 7:30, and on Sunday mornings at 11. You can double check on our calendar on tara.org. If you go to events and drop down to calendar, it'll let you know if there's going to be one on any given day, and you can get information from there. Every once in a while we have a practice that interrupts the flow. So that's one of the things that we offer here. Also, every night at 7 p.m. we offer a very short Medicine Buddha practice. And this began with the beginning of COVID, but it's for not just those who are sick with COVID, but those who are sick or suffering in that way. And it's very potent, it's very short, and it's in English. And you can find that on Facebook. Again, that'll be on the calendar. And in addition, we have on the second and fourth Sunday of the month, Atira Zioli, Jetsunma's daughter and close heart student, teaches on beginning Buddhism. So there's introduction to that. That's on YouTube. That's at 5 p.m. on Sundays, the second and fourth Sunday of the month. And so let's see. Then also on the weekends, on Saturday and Sunday, we have a 10 a.m. meditation, which is on YouTube. And so you can join in with that. It's facilitated by one of our nuns and can give you a group to practice with and some backup for your meditation practice. All of these are available online. Our temple is currently in the process of opening, but not fully open, just on weekends right now from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. The prayer room itself is open for prayer and contemplation, and we invite you to come. At all other times, we're open outside, and we definitely invite you to come out there as well. So there are many places that you can find some spiritual refuge and some peace and quiet and some focus for your devotion and that sort of thing. So you can walk the trails, meditation gardens, lots to do, lots to see, and lots of great places to just relax and, feel the presence. So we hope you do that. We hope you join us. And you're always welcome. So until next time, thanks for joining us and stay safe. We can't wait for this to be over, and we know neither can you. So, and by this I don't mean life. I mean the pandemic and that craziness that goes with it. So take care of yourselves.